My son-in-law branded me a thief in front of my grandkids, yelling, "Get out!" My daughter stayed silent, eyes downcast. But when I pulled out my bag's hidden camera proof, their faces went ghostly pale. Can you believe it? At 65 years old, I, Martha Adlington, an ordinary widow from Chesapeake, found myself standing in an electronics store, about to buy a hidden camera. It felt utterly ridiculous, like something out of a spy movie, not the quiet life of an elderly woman who should be knitting, not spying. But I had a gut feeling, a chilling suspicion that my own son-in-law was stealing from me, right under my daughter's nose. And that tiny lens, it was about to expose a betrayal so deep, it threatened to tear my family apart. Mrs. Adlington, the young salesman, who looked barely older than my grandson Liam, smiled, showing me a device the size of a button. This model has a motion sensor. The battery lasts a week. You said you want to keep an eye on your cat when you're away. My cat. The lie came out so easily, too easily. Much easier than admitting I suspected Evelyn's husband, Dexter. Yes, I said, forcing a smile. My Oscar is terribly curious. Gets into everything when I'm not home. The truth, I don't even have a cat. Just an empty house that's been too quiet since George died 3 years ago, and this growing, sickening feeling that something was terribly wrong in my daughter Evelyn's life. Chesapeake isn't huge, but it's not tiny either. My house on Oak Street, the one George and I built our dreams in 50 years ago, felt like a fortress, worn by time like me. Evelyn lives across town with Dexter, a man I could barely tolerate, and my 2 wonderful grandchildren. I saw them less and less these days. I walked out of the store into the cool April morning, clutching the camera box. The wind from the bay cut right through me, making my old wool coat feel useless. My knee, still aching from that fall last winter, throbbed with every step. I peered into shop windows, but my mind was miles away, grappling with how my life had spiraled into this, spying on my own family. It all began with $200. I remember tucking it into my wallet before heading to Evelyn and Dexter's for Christmas. It was for Liam and Penny, a little cash for them to choose their own presents. But when it was time for gifts, my wallet was empty. I searched everywhere, the guest room, my purse, even my coat. Nothing. You probably left it at home, Mom, Evelyn said, her eyes darting away from mine. You've been forgetting things a lot lately. It wasn't true. Yes, I might misplace my glasses now and then, but I've worked at a bank for 32 years. I'm meticulous with money. I'll cover the presents, Dexter interjected, pulling out his wallet with a flourish. Don't worry about it, Martha. There was always this condescending edge in his voice when he spoke to me, like I was a troublesome child, not his wife's mother. Dexter Price, 42, a long-haul truck driver. Always tired-looking, always shaking hands too firmly, as if trying to prove something. I never understood what Evelyn saw in him beyond his undeniable good looks. I kept quiet then. I didn't want to ruin Christmas for Liam, who was 10, and Penny just 8. They looked at me with wide, sensing eyes. Dexter gave them each $20. They thanked him uncertainly, clearly disappointed. Lying in that guest room that night, the one Evelyn had picked the wallpaper for when she was a little girl, the thought hit me for the first time. What if Dexter took my money? It seemed absurd. Evelyn said he made good money. Why steal from his elderly mother-in-law? But the seed of doubt was planted. And then, I started seeing other things. Evelyn, who used to be so bright and vivacious, now spoke softly, constantly glancing at Dexter, as if seeking his permission for every word. My phone calls went unanswered more and more. Invitations to visit became rare, always when Dexter was away on a flight. Then, during a visit in March, I found my bag rummaged through, my wallet wide open. No money was missing this time, but the violation, the fact of it. Coffee, Mom. Evelyn walked into the living room without knocking, startling me. She looked utterly exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. Thank you, dear. Is everything all right? Of course, she replied too quickly. I just didn't get much sleep. Penny was coughing all night. I knew it was a lie. My room was next to Penny's. I hadn't heard a peep, but I didn't call her out. After that visit, I started noticing how Dexter watched me, intensely, when he thought I wasn't looking. How he'd ask about my house, if I kept anything valuable there, about the insurance policy George had left behind. Grandma, do you have that old jewelry? Penny asked me one day, perched on my lap. Dad said you have some beautiful jewelry that belonged to my great-grandmother. I froze. My grandmother's jewelry was in my possession, not monetarily valuable, but priceless to me. I'd never mentioned it to Dexter. Dad said that. I asked cautiously. Yes. He told Mom you were probably hiding it and didn't want to share. Evelyn, who'd overheard, went pale. Penny, go to your room, she snapped. The look she gave me, a mixture of fear and shame, screamed that something was terribly wrong in that house. I thought about it all the way home, on the bus, watching Chesapeake's streets blur by. I thought about it opening the door to my empty house, cooking dinner for one. George would have known what to do. He always did. But George was gone. Now it was up to me. That evening, Wrapped in a blanket in George's armchair by the window, I made a decision. The next time I visited, if my things or money went missing, I would find out who was responsible. And now, this tiny camera was in my bag. I felt ridiculous, embarrassing even, like a spy from George's old movies. But it was necessary. Back home, I pulled out the device. The instructions were tiny. I needed my strongest glasses. The technical terms were confusing, but I got the basics. Motion activated, records to a memory card, viewable on a computer. A computer! I had an old laptop Evelyn gave me years ago, mostly for photos of the grandkids and news. Could I even view the recordings? You'll figure it out, Martha, I said aloud, startled by how often I talked to myself since George passed. You're not that old. For the next 2 days, I practiced. I set it up in my bedroom, checked angles, learned to download. Several times, frustration nearly made me toss it, but stubbornness has always been my strong suit. By Friday, I felt like an expert. Just in time, Evelyn called. Dexter will be home, she said quietly. He wants to talk to you about something important. Her voice sounded off. When I asked if she was okay, she quickly changed the subject. Sunday morning, I packed a small bag. Evelyn insisted I stay the night. Clothes, toiletries, medication, and of course my camera, carefully tucked into my makeup bag. Evelyn's house was in a new suburban neighborhood, a typical cottage. Faceless, to my taste. Nothing like our old place on Oak Street, where every crack had a story. Evelyn opened the door before I could ring. She looked nervous but tried to smile. Mom, I'm so glad you're here. Her hug was tight, almost desperate. I caught the scent of her shampoo, the same one she used as a teenager. Is something wrong, dear? I asked quietly. No, of course not, she replied too quickly. Come in. The kids have been asking for you. Liam and Penny burst into the hall, happy and noisy. Liam, tall for 10, with George's serious eyes. Penny, covered in freckles, pigtails bouncing. Grandma, did you bring anything? Penny blurted. Penny! Evelyn scolded. It's okay. I smiled, pulling 2 small packages from my bag. A book for Liam, adventure stories, and colored pencils for Penny, who inherited my love for drawing. Thank you, Grandma, Liam said formally, but his eyes glowed. Penny just threw herself into my arms, her small, warm body a comfort. For them, I could endure the tension in this house. Kids, go to your rooms. Dexter's low voice came from the doorway. Let Grandma rest. He leaned against the frame, tall, dark hair graying at the temples. He was undeniably attractive, if not for the coldness in his eyes when he looked at me. Hello, Dexter, I said, straightening up. Years at the bank taught me to stay calm around unpleasant people. Martha, he nodded, not moving. I hope the trip was okay. Fine, thank you. I'll take your things to the guest room, Evelyn interjected, grabbing my bag. You and Dexter talk while I do that. My heart pounded. The camera. But if I refused, it would arouse suspicion. Of course, dear. Thank you. Evelyn quickly left, leaving me alone with my son-in-law. Come into the living room, Dexter said, motioning for me to follow. We really need to talk. I followed, wondering what it would be about. Money. The house. George's insurance. The conversation, though, was about something else entirely. When I finally got to the guest room late that night, I was relieved. The camera was still safely in my makeup bag. I carefully, silently, set it up between the books on the shelf. Perfect angle. It would see the whole room, especially where I'd leave my bag. Tomorrow I'd know the truth. Morning brought the smell of pancakes and children's laughter. I lay in the guest room, listening to the house wake up. It was Liam's 11th birthday. I remembered holding him, tiny and screaming, 11 years ago. George had tears in his eyes, though he swore it was something in his eye. Sunlight streamed through the curtains, a present for the birthday boy. I slowly sat up, my joints aching. At 65, every morning reminds you of the years lived. I reached for my glasses, glancing at the bookshelf. The camera was still there, inconspicuous. Grandma, are you awake? Penny burst in, already in her frilly party dress. Mom said you should come have breakfast. Good morning, sunshine. I smiled, watching her bounce. Tell Mom I'll be there in 10 minutes. And Dad said we're having guests tonight, she chirped. And a big cake. Liam will make a wish. He will. I nodded. Now, let Grandma get dressed. Once Penny left, I went to the window. The neat houses, trimmed lawns, parked cars looked so peaceful. It was hard to believe something so dark was going on here, something that made Evelyn exhausted and Dexter more irritable. Yesterday's conversation with him had been strange. I expected questions about money, but he talked about work, a promotion, a new car, as if trying to convince himself, or me, of his financial stability. Everything's great, Martha, he kept repeating. Soon, we'll even send the kids to private school. But something in his eyes didn't match his words. Anxiety. Fear. I couldn't place it. After dressing, I slipped the memory card into a secret pocket in my purse. Better safe than sorry. The kitchen was alive with coffee aroma and bustle. Evelyn worked at the stove. Liam set the table, penny hung garlands. Happy birthday, dear. I hugged Liam. He leaned into me for a moment, then pulled away, shy. He was growing up. Thanks, Grandma, he muttered, back to setting the table. Mom, coffee. Evelyn turned. My heart ached when I saw it. A bruise under her eye, poorly covered by makeup. I knew that look. Don't look. Don't ask. Everything's fine. A look she perfected over years of marriage to Dexter. I'd love some, dear. Can I help? No, you're a guest, she replied too quickly. Just sit with the kids. We ate breakfast without Dexter. Evelyn said he went to get the cake. His absence eased the tension. The children talked louder. Evelyn even smiled a few times. Grandma, did you bring me a present? Liam asked. Liam! Evelyn scolded. It's okay, I ruffled his hair. Of course I did, but let's wait until tonight. The gift, a radio-controlled model airplane kit, was hidden in my bag. I'd saved for it from my modest pension. After breakfast, the children ran off. Evelyn and I were alone. She washed dishes silently, avoiding my gaze. Eve, I said quietly, using her childhood nickname. What's going on? Don't tell me everything's fine. Her hands froze in the soapy water. For a moment, I thought she might cry, but she just sighed deeply. It's just stress, Mom. Work at the hospital, the kids, the house. You know how it is. And the bruise under your eye? I pressed. That's from stress, too? She flinched as if struck. I bumped into the closet door. My own clumsiness. A lie so obvious it hurt. My daughter, who'd never been able to lie as a child, now uttered these words with frightening ease. Evelyn, if you need help. The front door slammed, interrupting me. Heavy footsteps. Dexter appeared, holding a large cake box. The cake's here, he announced with forced cheerfulness. Hi, Martha. Had breakfast? Yes, thank you. I watched Evelyn instantly transform. Shoulders back, forced smile fussing with the coffee pot. Honey, coffee? I can heat pancakes. Coffee, he said curtly, placing the box. Black. I need to check the barbecue. The Bensons are coming at 5. I thought the party was at 4, Evelyn said uncertainly. I moved it. I have things to do, Dexter snapped. And tell the kids to keep it down. My head is splitting. He grabbed his coffee and walked to the backyard without looking at us. Evelyn slumped. He's just tired, she muttered, though I hadn't asked. He works a lot. I said nothing. What could I say? That I saw her fear? That I remembered how happy she was before him? That George would be turning in his grave? Instead, I put my hand on her shoulder. I'll go see what the kids are doing. The day dragged on. The children played quietly. Evelyn prepared dinner. Dexter disappeared into the garage, then his study, talking on the phone too quietly to hear. At 3, I went to the guest room, pretending to rest. I checked the camera. Still there, but the angle had shifted slightly. Had someone moved the books? I quickly adjusted it and went back to the children. By 5, guests arrived. Neighbors, Evelyn's colleagues, a distant relative of Dexter's, Miss Coleman. A dozen adults, 5 children. The party was in the backyard. Dexter grilled, playing the hospitable host. Evelyn bustled with snacks. The children played badminton. I sat in a wicker chair, watching this facade of happy family life. No one seemed to notice Evelyn's forced smiles, Dexter's sharp movements, or the frightened glances the children cast at him when he raised his voice. Nice party, isn't it? Miss Coleman, a dry old lady with piercing eyes, sat beside me. Liam's grown so much. Yes, they're both growing too fast, I agreed. How are you, Martha? Is it hard being alone after George? Her question was direct, not tactless. At her age, over 70, she didn't waste time on pleasantries. I'm getting used to it, I replied honestly. One day at a time. I understand, she nodded. My Harold passed 15 years ago. Sometimes I still talk to him. Can you imagine? I can imagine, I smiled. George is now my chief advisor. Miss Coleman chuckled, then nodded towards Dexter, who was laughing loudly at someone's joke. And what does George think of your son-in-law? I froze, caught off guard. Why do you ask? She shrugged. Just curious. Dexter, he's a complicated man. I've known him since he was a child. His father was the same, charming at first, then controlling. She saw it too. But before I could respond, Dexter interrupted. What are you whispering about, ladies? He asked, beer in hand. I hope you're not gossiping about me. What are you talking about, Dexter? Miss Coleman replied calmly. We were discussing the weather. Perfect for a barbecue. Right. He smiled, but his eyes were cold. Martha, could you help Evelyn in the kitchen? I think she needs some help with the cake. It wasn't a request. It was an order. I slowly got up, my knee aching. Of course. In the kitchen, Evelyn was indeed busy with a huge chocolate cake and 11 candles. Mom, thanks for coming, she exhaled. I can't find the matches. Dexter usually keeps them. She opened and closed drawers. In the top cabinet, dear, Dexter's voice came from the doorway. With my cigarettes, which you threw away last week. Evelyn flinched. I thought you quit smoking. And I thought we didn't throw away each other's things, he retorted, walking in. But I'm not angry, sweetheart. It's a holiday. He put his arms around her shoulders, too tightly, judging by her wince. I turned away, pretending to look for cake plates. By the way, Martha, Dexter said to me, I found an old box in the attic. I think it's yours, with jewelry in it. I froze. My box. The one with my grandmother's jewelry, the one I'd left with Evelyn for safekeeping years ago during my renovation. Yes, I think it's mine, I replied cautiously. Can I take a look? Of course, he smiled. After the cake. It's in my study. Something in his tone made me wary. He was testing me. The evening continued. Liam blew out candles. Dexter gave a touching speech. From the outside, everything looked perfect. A happy family. A loving father. Only I saw Evelyn's tense shoulders, Liam's forced smile, his desperate need for his father's approval. When the cake was eaten and presents opened, my airplane delighted Liam. Guests began to leave. The children, tired, went to their rooms. Evelyn started cleaning. Come on, Martha. Dexter appeared beside me as I folded napkins. I'll show you that box. I followed him into his study, a small room with a desk, computer, bookshelves. On the desk was my box, carved wood, brought from Europe by my father after the war. Inside, inexpensive but sentimental pieces. My grandmother's silver bracelet, my mother's pearl brooch, gold earrings from George. I found this the other day looking for papers, Dexter said, pushing the box toward me. Thought you might want it. I carefully took it. The lock was broken. The small silver tongue, once clicking shut, now hung by a single screw. The lock was broken when I found it, Dexter said quickly, watching my reaction. Probably a long time ago. A lie. I remembered it intact. And it wasn't just any lock. My father had installed a clever mechanism only I knew how to open. My heart pounded. I opened the lid. The jewelry was there. But something was wrong. I sifted through them. Bracelet, brooch, earrings, a ring. Where was George's wedding ring? After he died, I kept it here on a thin gold chain. Is something wrong? Dexter asked, watching me closely. I slowly looked up. Should I tell him? Accuse him now? No. Not with Evelyn and the children nearby. No. Everything's fine, I lied. Just haven't seen these things in a long time. Thanks for finding them. He nodded, but I saw a strange look in his eyes. Disappointment. Relief. You can take it with you, he said casually. It's yours. Yes, of course, I said, clutching the box. I'll put it in my room. Leaving the study, I stopped in the hall, trying to calm my breathing. George's ring was gone. Not the most expensive, but priceless to me. In the guest room, I examined the box. The lock wasn't just broken, it was pried open, with clear marks from a screwdriver. And the inside? No dust. Someone had recently wiped it clean, but not the outside. I sat on the bed, holding the box. Questions swirled. Why George's ring? Why not something more valuable? Why return the box now? A soft knock. I quickly closed the box, hid it under my pillow. Come in. It was Evelyn with a cup of tea. Thought you might want some tea before bed, she said, placing it on the nightstand. How was your holiday? Wonderful, I replied. Liam was happy. She nodded, her gaze distant. Mom, she began, then bit her lip. What is it, dear? Nothing. She shook her head. Just, thank you for coming. It means a lot to the children. She leaned in to hug me and whispered, so softly I barely heard it. Be careful with Dexter. He's been out of sorts lately. Before I could respond, she straightened up. Good night, Mom. Good night, sweetie. When the door closed, I took the box out. In the dim light of the lamp, the jewelry glimmered, reminding me of the past, of George, of happy moments lost. The broken lock spoke louder than words. Something was very wrong in this house, and I had to find out what it was before it was too late. The morning was cloudy, distant thunder rumbling. 7 a.m., but voices already. Dexter's irritated tone, Evelyn's soothing one. They were arguing. A door slammed. Silence. I dressed quickly. House dress, flat shoes, minimal makeup. At 65, you don't try to impress anyone. I combed my gray hair into a bun, looked in the mirror. I used to be a young woman, full of plans. Now a widow, considered a burden by her son-in-law. Picking up the box, I went to the kitchen. Coffee and something sweet. Evelyn was at the stove. Liam, and Penny already eating. No Dexter. Good morning, I said. Good morning, Mom. Evelyn replied, tense. Coffee. I'd love some. I put the box on the table, sat next to Penny. Grandma, are you leaving today? She asked. Yes, sweetie, but not for a while. We'll have time to play. Liam silently chewed his pancake, avoiding my gaze. Something was wrong. Usually so chatty, he seemed withdrawn, almost frightened. What's wrong, Liam? I asked, reaching for his hand. He flinched, pulled away. Everything's fine, he muttered, not looking up. Evelyn placed coffee and pancakes before me. Her hands were shaking. Kids, she said, unnaturally cheerful. When you're done, go to your rooms, okay? Your dad needs to talk to your grandmother. My stomach clenched. Talk about what? The box. The missing ring. I'm almost done, Liam said hurriedly. Let's go, Penny. But I'm not finished, she protested. Let's go, he repeated, grabbing her hand. I'll let you play with my new toy. It worked. Penny, forgetting her pancake, jumped up. At the door, she waved. See you soon, Grandma. When they left, I turned to Evelyn. What's going on? She sat opposite me, avoiding my gaze. Dexter, she began, then stopped as heavy footsteps echoed. He entered, tall, broad-shouldered, stony-faced, holding something wrapped in a handkerchief. Good morning, Martha, he said with a fake smile. Did you sleep well? Fine, thank you. My heart was in my throat. You wanted to talk to me? Yes. He sat at the head of the table, placing the bundle. About your jewelry box. I nodded, waiting. Evelyn froze, pale as a sheet. When was the last time you opened it? Dexter asked. Last night. When you gave it to me, everything was there. I hesitated. Not quite. George's wedding ring is missing. I kept it on a chain. Dexter nodded as if expecting it. You know, Martha, he said slowly, drawing out his words. I've been noticing strange things lately. Things going missing. First small things. Money from my wallet. Then Evelyn's watch. Then her mother's earrings. Dexter, Evelyn interrupted quietly. Maybe you shouldn't. Shut up, he snapped. She cringed. I'm going to take care of this once and for all. He turned to me, his eyes filled with cold fury. And yesterday, I decided to check your jewelry box, Martha. And do you know what I found there? He unfolded the handkerchief. A gold ring with a small diamond flashed on the table. My mother's engagement ring, which disappeared a month ago. I stared, unable to believe my eyes. I'd never seen it before. It's not mine, I said firmly. I never took your things, Dexter. Don't lie to me. He slammed his fist on the table, making the cups jump. It was in your jewelry box. You took it when you stayed with us last month. That's not true. I trembled inside, but kept my voice steady. I'm not a thief, Dexter. And you know that. I know, he smiled bitterly. All I know is that ever since George died, you've been complaining about money. I know you're jealous of our house, of our life. I know you don't approve of me as your daughter's husband, and this is your way of getting back at us by stealing our things. Evelyn sobbed quietly, covering her face. I looked at her, expecting her to defend me. Evelyn, I said, my daughter, you don't believe this, do you? She looked up, tear-filled eyes, but before she could speak, a rustling at the door. Liam and Penny stood there, frightened. Dad, Liam said uncertainly. What's going on? Dexter turned, his face instantly changing. Anger gave way to feigned sadness. Kids, I'm very sorry, but I have something to tell you. Remember Grandma Price's ring that went missing? I found it at your Grandma Martha's house. Penny looked at me in confusion. Grandma took someone else's ring? No, I exclaimed. Never, Dexter. Don't get the kids involved in this. But he didn't hear me. Yes, Penny. Grandma Martha took things that didn't belong to her, he said gently, as if explaining a difficult concept. Sometimes adults do bad things when they don't have enough money. That's a lie. I jumped up, blood rushing to my face. I've never taken anything that didn't belong to me. Dexter, stop this right now. See, he said to the children, ignoring me. That's why I didn't want her to come so often. I knew something was wrong. Liam looked at me with horror and disbelief. Penny started to cry. But Grandma can't be a thief, she whispered through tears. She's nice. Sometimes people aren't who they seem, sweetie. Dexter patted her head. I'm so sorry. The ground slipped away beneath my feet. My own son-in-law was accusing me of theft in front of my grandchildren, and my daughter stood by silently, letting it happen. Evelyn! I turned to her, my voice shaking. Tell them the truth. You've known me all my life. You know I would never. Mom, she finally said, barely audible. Just admit it, please. It'll be easier for everyone. I froze. My own daughter. Flesh of my flesh. Betraying me. Agreeing with false accusations. Depriving me of the last thing I had left. My grandchildren's respect. I will not confess to something I did not do, I said, tears burning my throat. Never. Dexter shook his head, feigning regret. Then I'm very sorry, Martha, but I have to ask you to leave right now. I can't allow you to stay in my house around my children. But Dad, Liam began. Grandma's bus is at 2. It doesn't matter, Dexter cut him off. She'll find somewhere to go, won't you, Martha? I looked at them all. At Dexter, triumphant. At Evelyn, broken. At the frightened children. Something inside me died. A pain I hadn't felt even after George's death. I'm leaving, I said, standing up. But know this. I never took what wasn't mine. Never. I headed for the door, then stopped, turning back to the box on the table. This is mine, I said, taking it, pressing it tight to my chest. And I'll prove my innocence, I promised. Dexter smiled. Sure, Martha. Good luck with that. I walked past the children, trying not to look into their tear-filled, confused eyes. I went to the guest room and quickly gathered my things. The camera was still on the bookshelf, inconspicuous, but hopefully it had captured everything. Coming downstairs with my bag, Evelyn stood in the hallway alone. Dexter had taken the children to the living room. "Mom," she whispered, "I don't believe you're a thief. But Dexter, he's so convincing. And they really did find the ring in your jewelry box, which someone broke into," I finished, looking her straight in the eye. "You know the lock was broken. You know I would never take something that didn't belong to me." "I know," she lowered her gaze, "but I can't do anything. He controls you," I finished for her. "And you let him. You let him destroy our family, humiliate me in front of my grandchildren. How can you, Evelyn?" Tears rolled down her cheeks. "You don't understand, Mom. You don't know what it's like." "I do," I said, suddenly so tired my anger receded. "I know more than you think. And I'll help you, even if you didn't help me." I opened the front door. It had started raining. A light, cold rain that seeped into my bones. Perfect weather for the hardest day of my life. "Goodbye, Evelyn." "Mom, wait." She grabbed my arm. "Where are you going?" "It's raining, and the bus won't be here for hours." "I'll find somewhere to go," I repeated Dexter's words with bitter irony. "Don't worry about me. Worry about your children, who are growing up watching their father mistreat their mother and humiliate their grandmother." I stepped out into the rain without looking back. My bag weighed heavily. The box, impossibly heavy. But heaviest of all was my heart, broken by the betrayal of those closest to me. The streets of Chesapeake were nearly empty that Sunday morning. Passers-by hurried, oblivious to the elderly woman wandering slowly. I walked without purpose, just trying to get away from my daughter's house. 2 blocks later, I found a small cafe, open despite the early hour. The bell jingled. An elderly waitress looked up. "Terrible weather, isn't it?" she said cheerfully. "Have a seat wherever you like." I chose a window table, watching the rain blur the street into a gray canvas. Like my life, which yesterday was bright, now colorless. "Coffee?" the waitress asked. "Yes, please." I didn't even look at the menu. "Can I use your phone?" "Of course, dear." She nodded towards the wall phone. "Is everything all right?" I tried to smile. "Just a little family problem. Nothing serious." She nodded understandingly. I pulled out my worn notebook, where I kept important numbers. Vernon Carlson, my neighbor, a former police officer who sometimes gave me rides from the supermarket. Maybe he could meet me at the bus station. Or, if I was lucky, pick me up here. Better than sitting alone, wet and humiliated. I dialed. "Carlson speaking." A gruff, familiar voice answered on the 3rd ring. "Vernon, this is Martha Adlington." My voice trembled. "Your neighbor from Oak Street, Martha?" He sounded surprised. "What happened? Are you all right?" "Not really," I sighed. "I'm in Chesapeake at my daughter's." "Well, not at my daughter's anymore. I need to get home, but the bus isn't until 2. "Give me your address," he interrupted, no hesitation. "I'll come over." Tears of gratitude welled. "It's Jenny's Cafe, corner of Maple and 5th. "But I don't want to trouble you." "I'll be there in 40 minutes, he said firmly. "Don't go anywhere." Returning to my table, I wrapped my hands around the hot coffee cup. My wet clothes clung to me. My hair had escaped its bun, damp strands framing my face. I must have looked like a lunatic. What would George say? He'd scold Dexter, then Evelyn, then hug me. "Martha, old girl, don't let them get you down. You're stronger than you think." I took out my wallet to pay, feeling for the memory card. A small piece of plastic. My only hope. I needed to watch that recording. The rain hammered harder on the cafe windows. I sat crushed, accused of stealing, betrayed by my daughter, sitting in a strange cafe, waiting for a stranger who showed more kindness than my own family. In my pocket, the memory card, the proof. But now it all felt so distant. Only the pain of betrayal and the cold of that rainy April morning remained. Vernon Carlson arrived exactly 40 minutes later. His old blue Ford pulled up. Relief washed over me. He came in, shaking rain from his leather jacket, spotted me instantly. Tall, stooped, thick gray mustache, piercing blue eyes. A typical retired police officer, still sharp. "Martha," he said, giving me an appraising look. "You're soaked." "I wasn't in the rain long," I replied, standing. "Thank you for coming, Vernon. I don't know what I would have done." "Don't mention it," he waved it off. "I was going into town for a new garden hose anyway." "Ready?" I nodded, reaching for my wallet. "I already paid," Vernon said. "Let's go." "The car is warm." The car was warm. I buckled my seatbelt, put my bag on my lap, and finally relaxed a little. We drove onto Chesapeake's Main Street, heading out of town. "So," Vernon said, eyes on the road, "what happened with your daughter?" I took a deep breath. "Where to start?" "I've been accused of theft," I finally said. "Dexter, my son-in-law. He said I stole his mother's jewelry." Vernon grunted, waiting. He made a scene in front of the children. Said he found his mother's ring in my jewelry box, but I've never seen that ring before. My voice trembled. And Evelyn, she didn't say a word. Just stood there, letting him accuse me in front of her grandchildren. I see, Vernon nodded. Unpleasant situation. What are you going to do? I clutched my bag. I have proof. At least I hope I do. Vernon glanced at me, eyebrow raised. Proof? I installed a camera in the guest room, I admitted, a strange relief washing over me. A small, inconspicuous one. It records to a memory card. I suspected something was wrong when money went missing last time. Vernon smiled slightly under his mustache. Not bad for a beginner detective. What's on the recording? I don't know. I shook my head. I haven't looked yet. I need a computer. I have a laptop at home, he said. You can use it. We drove in silence. I watched the Chesapeake suburbs give way to rural landscapes, thinking how quickly things built over years, trust, respect, could be destroyed. So fragile. Our neighborhood greeted us with the same rain, though lighter. Vernon stopped at his house, a neat one-story building across from mine. Come on, he said. Have some hot tea, dry your clothes. Then we'll watch your recording. I followed him up the wet driveway. Inside, Vernon's house was as I imagined. Simple, functional, a little old-fashioned. Sturdy furniture, photos of Vernon in his police uniform. Bathroom's over there, he pointed. You'll find a towel. I'll put the kettle on. 15 minutes later, changed and hair towel dried, I sat at Vernon's kitchen table with hot tea. He sat opposite, his open laptop between us. Now let's see what you've got, he said. My hands trembled as I gave him the memory card. What if it hadn't worked? What if Dexter had found it? Vernon inserted the card. Several files here, he said. Dated. Which one? Yesterday's, I think, I replied. I set it up Saturday evening after talking to Dexter. He opened the file. The screen went blank, then showed Evelyn's guest room. Not perfect quality, but clear. Bed, nightstand, part of the wardrobe. No sound. I'd forgotten to activate that. We'll have to fast forward, Vernon said. Several hours here. Frames of an empty room flashed. Sometimes me, combing my hair, reading, getting ready for bed. Stop, Vernon said suddenly, slowing it down. Someone's coming in. I leaned forward. Dexter. He looked around, listened, then quickly went to my bag by the bed. He rummaged, growing annoyed. Then he stopped, as if he heard something, and quickly left. That was yesterday afternoon, I said. When I was with the kids. Vernon fast-forwarded. Dexter reappeared. Nighttime, judging by the darkness and nightlight. I should have been asleep. He looked around, then walked to the nightstand where my jewelry box was. He picked it up, examined the lock, then took something from his pocket, a screwdriver or knife, and started picking at it. Everything inside me went cold. This was it. The proof. Dexter was breaking into my jewelry box. On the recording, he finally opened the box, rummaged, then took a small object from his pocket, a ring, and placed it among my jewelry. He closed the box, put it back and left. Oh my God, I whispered. He put the ring in my jewelry box. Looks like it, Vernon nodded. Let's watch more. The next interesting moment was early morning. Dexter entered again, but this time with Evelyn. They stood at the door, arguing by their gestures. Evelyn shook her head, tried to leave, but Dexter grabbed her arm, said something, leaning close. She cringed, nodded, and they both left. Too bad there's no sound, Vernon said. But it's clear enough. He's intimidating your daughter. I nodded silently, tears in my eyes. Poor Evelyn. I should have realized sooner. Wait. Vernon paused. He's back. A few minutes later, Dexter entered, phone in hand. He sat on my bed, talking, glancing at the door. He stood, paced, gestured wildly. Clearly an unpleasant conversation. His face contorted with anger. He slammed his fist into his palm. It's a shame we don't know who he's talking to, I said. Hard to tell without sound, Vernon agreed. But it looks like a creditor. These gestures, he pointed to Dexter counting money, usually mean debt discussion. I remembered Dexter's strange behavior, his nervousness. Do you think he has money? Problems? Quite possibly, Vernon shrugged. And judging by his behavior, serious ones. We continued. Dexter finished his call, sat with his head in his hands, then abruptly left. The next significant moment was morning light. Evelyn entered with tea. She placed it, looked around, then went to my bag. She hesitated, struggling, then quickly opened it and put something inside. A note. Then she left. What did she put in my bag? I strained. Can't see. Vernon shook his head. Something small. Check your bag. I quickly opened my bag. Nothing unusual. Clothes, toiletries, a book. Wait. I pulled out the Agatha Christie novel. A folded piece of paper fell out. Here. I unfolded the note. Evelyn's handwriting. Small, uneven, hurried. Mom, I'm sorry. D is in big debt because of gambling. He's threatening to take the kids if I don't help him. I'm scared for them. Please be careful. Don't trust him. So that's what it is. Vernon said quietly, reading over my shoulder. Gambling. Poor Evelyn. I pressed the note to my chest. She's afraid of him. Afraid for the children. Vernon returned to the laptop. The last fragment showed Dexter entering again, this time to search thoroughly. He checked drawers, under the bed, even rummaged through the books where the camera was. I held my breath. He was about to find it. But Dexter was in a hurry, missed the small device. He continued, growing irritated, and finding nothing, left, slamming the door. That's where the recording ended. I leaned back, stunned. Now it's clear, Vernon said, closing the file. Your son-in-law is in debt from gambling. He needs money. He decided to get rid of you by accusing you of theft. Maybe he was hoping for insurance money, or just to divert suspicion. But why involve the children? I still couldn't grasp his cruelty. Why humiliate me in front of them? To convince everyone of your guilt, Vernon explained. Children are sincere. If they didn't believe you were a thief, they might have defended you, asked uncomfortable questions. Dexter needed to turn them against you. I remember their faces, frightened, confused, tears in their eyes. He had taken away not only their grandmother, but their belief that those closest to them were always honest and kind. What am I supposed to do now, Vernon? I felt utterly lost. I had the recording, but who would believe an old woman accusing her son-in-law of forgery? Vernon stroked his mustache. The police are unlikely to get involved in a family dispute without clear evidence of violence, he said. But the recording is a good start. We need more information about Dexter's debts. Who does he owe? How much? How serious are his problems? I don't know. I shook my head. Evelyn never mentioned financial difficulties. Dexter always boasted about how well they were doing. Typical of gamblers, Vernon snorted. Maintaining the appearance of prosperity until the end. And your daughter's note confirms he's threatening her and the children. That's serious. I reread Evelyn's note. I'm afraid for them. What did she mean? Physical violence? Or threats to take away her parental rights? Either way, my daughter and grandchildren were in danger. And I was sitting here, helpless. We have to go back, I said firmly. Show Evelyn the note. Convince her to leave Dexter. Take the children. Vernon shook his head. Not so fast, Martha. If Dexter really owes dangerous people a lot of money, a direct confrontation could be dangerous. We need a plan. What plan? I was losing patience. Every hour my grandchildren spend with that man could be dangerous. I understand your concern, Vernon said gently. But let's think rationally. If we just barge in with accusations, Dexter will deny everything. He'll say the recording is fake, that you made it up out of revenge. And Evelyn, I'm afraid she might not support you publicly if she's afraid for the children. I had to admit he was right. Evelyn's fear was stronger than her love for her mother. We couldn't count on her. What do you suggest? I asked, trying to calm down. Vernon stood and paced. First, copy this recording, he said. Just in case. Second, find out more about Dexter's finances. I have a friend in the police who can discreetly find out if your son-in-law has connections to underground gambling. And in the meantime, Evelyn and the children are staying with him, I remarked bitterly. Yes, but we'll move quickly, Vernon assured me. And one more thing. You need to contact Evelyn. Let her know you have evidence of his innocence and that you're willing to help. How? I spread my hands. Dexter probably controls all her communications. Phone mail. There are ways, Vernon said thoughtfully. Through her work. She still works at Chesapeake Hospital, right? I nodded. She's a nurse in the pediatric ward, 3 days a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Great. Vernon smiled. So, she'll be there tomorrow. We could meet her during her lunch break somewhere public where Dexter can't interfere. The plan began to take shape, and with it, a sliver of hope. Maybe not all was lost. Maybe I could regain my grandchildren's trust, help my daughter. Thank you, Vernon, I said sincerely. I don't know what I'd do without you. He waved his hand. It's nothing. Neighbors help neighbors. Besides, he added with a slight smile, I worked in the police for 30 years. Sometimes I miss investigating. I smiled back, the first real smile that long, difficult day. Then let's make a plan. What do we need to do before tomorrow? Vernon returned to the table. First, copy the recording, save it somewhere safe. Second, I'll call my friend at the police department and discreetly ask about Dexter. Third, prepare for the conversation with Evelyn. Decide exactly what we're going to tell her and how to convince her to act. I nodded, mentally adding, prepare for the meeting with the grandchildren. I had to find a way to explain without completely destroying their image of family. We spent hours working out a plan. Vernon was methodical, thorough. He considered every scenario, calculated risks, suggested alternatives. I listened, asked questions, argued sometimes, but I trusted his experience. By evening, we had a clear plan for the next few days. First step, meet Evelyn at the hospital. Then, depending on her reaction, either help her and the children escape or gather more evidence and go to the police. We need to be prepared for the possibility that Evelyn may not want our help, Vernon warned. Victims of domestic violence often defend their abusers, especially with children involved. I know, I sighed, but I have proof. She has to believe me. Let's hope so, he nodded. Now you need to rest. It's been a tough day. I suddenly felt utterly exhausted. All I wanted was to lie down and forget. But thoughts of my grandchildren wouldn't leave me. I'll walk you home, Vernon said, noticing my condition. The rain has almost stopped. Thank you, but I live across the street. I smiled weakly. I'll be fine. Still, he insisted. Take my umbrella just in case. We stepped onto the porch. It was getting dark. The air was fresh, smelling of wet earth and blossoming leaves. Spring was coming. We crossed the street in silence. My house looked quiet, dark, waiting for me. I took out my keys, but before opening the door, I turned to Vernon. Thank you for everything. I don't know how to express my gratitude. He looked embarrassed. Don't thank me, Martha. Just rest. Tomorrow is an important day. I nodded, a lump in my throat. It was strange, how a stranger had shown more concern than my own family. Though perhaps Vernon wasn't such a stranger anymore. We'd been neighbors for 10 years. See you tomorrow, I said, opening the door. See you tomorrow, he nodded. Call me if you need anything, anytime. Inside, the familiar scent of old wood, books, lavender. Safe. But for the first time in years, the house felt too empty, too quiet. I walked into the living room, not turning on the lights. Sat in George's armchair. What would you do, George? I whispered into the emptiness. How would you protect Evelyn and the children? No answer, just the ticking clock and rain. But I was sure George would have approved of our plan. He was always for decisive action, especially for family. I took the jewelry box from my bag, sorted through the familiar items. Grandmother's bracelet, mother's brooch, George's earrings. And the ring that didn't belong to me, planted by Dexter. Too new, too shiny, a silent witness to his setup. Tomorrow I'll see Evelyn. Show her the recording. Explain I'm ready to help. That she's not alone. We'll get the children away from Dexter before it's too late. And if she refuses, then plan B. More evidence than the police. I couldn't let him ruin my daughter's life, my grandchildren's lives. With these thoughts, I went to bed, feeling at peace for the first time in a long time. Monday morning dawned sunny, as if nature itself was making amends. I woke early, before 6, heart heavy but resolute. Today, everything had to change. After showering, I chose my clothes carefully, a dark blue dress, a jacket, a touch of makeup, George's pearl earrings. I wanted to look composed, confident, not the broken old woman they'd seen yesterday. At 8 a.m., the doorbell rang. Vernon, punctual, stood on the doorstep in his usual leather jacket, but with a tie today, making him look particularly formal. Good morning, Martha, he nodded. Are you ready? As ready as I can be, I replied, grabbing my bag, laptop inside. The drive to Chesapeake took about 40 minutes. We rode in silence. I watched the passing scenery, thinking how my life had changed in 2 days. Saturday, I was just a widow. Today, I was driving to rescue my family. Did you contact your friend in the police? I asked, breaking the silence. Vernon nodded. Yes, last night. Dexter Price is well known in certain circles. He owes money to several underground casinos and a local loan shark named Radcliffe. My friend didn't know the exact amount, but it was several tens of thousands of dollars. I gasped. Astronomical. How could he? They have children, a mortgage. Gambling addiction defies logic, Vernon replied grimly. People lose everything. Homes, families, jobs. Still hoping for that one big win. We pulled up to Chesapeake City Hospital, an imposing glass and concrete building. Vernon parked. It's 9:30, he said. Nurse's lunch break starts at noon. Yes, I nodded. Evelyn usually eats in the cafeteria on the first floor. Only 30 minutes, so we need to be concise. Okay, Vernon thought. Here's the plan. You go alone first. Ask if she can spare time. If she agrees, great. If not, or if she seems scared, I'll come over and introduce myself. An official appearance sometimes helps. I agreed. Vernon looked impressive with his mustache, piercing gaze, and today, that police veteran badge on his lapel. The wait was agonizing. We sat in the lobby, reviewing notes, discussing strategy. Finally, 11:45, I headed for the pediatric ward. Hospital corridors buzzed. Doctors, nurses, patients. I walked, trying to look confident, a bundle of nerves inside. What if Evelyn refused? What if Dexter had completely turned her against me? The pediatric ward had bright drawings and children's laughter. At the nurse's station, a young nurse was writing. Excuse me, I'm looking for Evelyn Price, I said. Is she on duty? The nurse looked up, smiled. Yes, she's in the treatment room. She'll be free soon. Are you her mother? She looked me over. You look like her. Yes, I said, a strange pride swelling despite everything. I'll wait for her here if I may. Of course, she nodded. Have a seat. Or should I call her if it's urgent? No, I'll wait, I said hastily. Last thing I needed was attention. I sat on a plastic chair. 10 minutes later, the treatment room door opened. Evelyn emerged, holding a little boy's hand. She led him to his room, said something affectionate, then turned. She froze when she saw me. Her face paled. Her eyes widened. Fear. She quickly looked around, as if checking for followers, then hurried over. Mom, she whispered. What are you doing here? I stood, my knees trembling. We need to talk, Evie. It's important. She looked around again, nervously tucking hair behind her ear, a childhood gesture. I can't, Dexter. Dexter isn't here, I said firmly. And we're going to talk about him. About what he did. Evelyn bit her lip, clearly struggling. I have lunch in 15 minutes, she finally said. Meet me in the cafeteria. First floor, far corner by the window. Okay, I nodded. And Evie, I have a friend with me, a former police officer. He wants to help. She flinched, but nodded. Okay, just be careful. Dexter sometimes shows up unannounced. Downstairs, Vernon was already at the corner table, 2 coffees in front of him. She's coming, I said, sitting opposite him. In 15 minutes. Vernon nodded. Okay. What does she look like? Scared. I replied honestly, and afraid Dexter might show up. Is that possible? She said he sometimes comes by unannounced. Vernon frowned. Then we need to be ready to act fast. Did you bring your laptop? I patted my bag. And all the documents, too. Exactly 15 minutes later, Evelyn entered. She changed out of her uniform into jeans and a sweater, hair in a ponytail. Tired and tense. She saw us, froze, then walked decisively to our table. Hi, Mom, she said quietly, sitting beside me. Then to Vernon. You must be the friend Mom mentioned. Vernon Carlson, he extended his hand. Nice to meet you, though the circumstances aren't pleasant. Evelyn shook his hand cautiously, then turned to me. I only have 25 minutes. What's going on, Mom? I took a deep breath. Evelyn, I know the truth about Dexter. About his debts, about the ring he planted, about everything. Her eyes widened. She turned even paler. What are you talking about? I have proof, I interrupted, opening my bag and taking out the laptop. I set it up. I set up a camera in the guest room. It recorded Dexter putting the ring in my jewelry box. Evelyn stared, unable to believe her ears. You what? See for yourself, I said, playing the recording. Right here. See. He comes into the room at night, picks the lock, puts the ring inside. Evelyn stared at the screen, unable to look away, her hands clenched so tightly her knuckles were white. And here, I continued, switching to another clip. He's talking on the phone. Judging by the tone, it's with a creditor. Vernon thinks it's about gambling debts. Radcliffe, Evelyn whispered, eyes glued to the screen. His name is Radcliffe. He lends money at exorbitant interest rates. And if he doesn't pay him back on time... She fell silent, covering her face. I put my hand on her shoulder. She trembled. Eve, sweetheart, why didn't you tell me? I could have helped. How? She asked bitterly, lowering her hands, tears glistening. By giving him your savings? Selling the house? That wouldn't solve it. Dexter would just lose that money too. He can't stop. What about your note? I took out the folded paper. You wrote he threatened to take the children away. Is that true? Evelyn nodded, wiping tears. He says if I leave or seek help, he'll prove I'm a bad mother, that I work too much, don't pay enough attention, that he'll fight for full custody and I won't see them. Those are empty threats, Vernon interjected. The court takes many factors into account, including financial stability. Your husband, from what I understand, has serious debts and a gambling addiction. No judge would give children to a father with such problems. Evelyn looked at him, hopefully. Are you sure? Absolutely, Vernon nodded. My friends in the Chesapeake Police Department confirmed your husband is known in certain circles. Debt, gambling, possibly even embezzlement at work. He's not the kind of man a court would trust with children. Evelyn began to cry again, but this time, it seemed to be relief. I was so afraid, she whispered. So scared of losing Liam and Penny. They're all I have. You have me, I said quietly, squeezing her hand. And I'll never let Dexter take your children away from you. Never. We sat in silence for several minutes. Evelyn tried to collect herself. Finally, she straightened up, looking at me with more determination. What should I do, Mom? Where should I go? I don't have money for a lawyer or a new place to live. Don't worry about that, I said. I have savings, and my house is big enough for all of you. The most important thing is to get the kids and get away from Dexter. But how? He'll be home from work at 6. The kids are at school until 3. Vernon stroked his mustache. Here's the plan. You finish work at 4. Excellent. At 3, Martha and I will pick up the children from school. Then we'll go to your house and gather the most essential things. At 4, we'll meet you here, and we'll all go to Martha's house together. What if Dexter comes back early? Evelyn asked anxiously. Unlikely, Vernon said. But even if he does, we have proof of his shady dealings. And I'm a former police officer. Trust me, he'll think twice before causing trouble. Evelyn looked uncertain, but nodded. All right, I agree. But we need to act quickly. Dexter has an app on his phone that tracks my movements. If I don't go home after work, he might suspect something. Then leave your phone here in a locker, Vernon suggested. Or with a colleague you trust. Tell them you forgot to charge it and borrow another one for emergencies. That's fine, Evelyn nodded. I have a friend, Sarah. She'll help. Great. I felt a warm glow of hope. Then it's settled. We'll pick up the kids at 3, get your things, and meet here at 4. Evelyn squeezed my hand. Mom, I feel so guilty. What happened yesterday? I should have stood up for you. I should have told the kids the truth. I'm such a coward. No, sweetie. I stroked her cheek. You're not a coward. You're a mother who fears for her children. I understand that. And I don't hold it against you. Evelyn clung to my hand, closing her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. I don't deserve a mother like you. You do, I said firmly. And you deserve even more. Now go to work. I'll meet you at 4. She nodded, stood, hugged me tightly, then quickly left, wiping her eyes. She's strong, Vernon remarked when we were alone. She'll be fine. Of course she will, I nodded. She's my daughter. The next few hours were spent in tense anticipation. Vernon and I discussed details, prepared documents. At 2:30, we drove to Chesapeake Elementary, a typical one-story building with bright walls and a playground. We parked nearby, waited. At 3 p.m., the bell rang. Children streamed out, loud and laughing. I spotted Liam and Penny first, walking hand in hand. Liam serious, Penny bouncing. My heart ached with tenderness and pain. How would they react? I got out and waved. Liam saw me first, stopped, holding Penny back. Surprise, embarrassment, uncertainty flashed across his face. Grandma! Penny spotted me, broke free running. Grandma, you're back! She hugged my legs. I bent down, hugging her back, tears stinging my eyes. Of course I'm back, sweetheart. I promised I'd prove my innocence, remember? Liam approached slowly, still unsure. Dad said you weren't coming back, he said quietly. He said you. I know what he said. I replied gently. But it's not true, Liam. And I have proof. Do you want to see it? He nodded, still not looking me in the eye. Then get in the car, I said, pointing to Vernon's vehicle. I'll explain everything on the way. Where are we going? Penny asked. Does Dad know? We're going to your house to get your things, I replied honestly. And then to mine. You'll be staying with me for a while. And no, Dad doesn't know yet. But Mom agrees. We just spoke to her. Liam frowned, confused, but got into the car. Vernon introduced himself, trying to look friendly despite his stern appearance. On the way to Evelyn's, I showed the children excerpts from the recording, only the parts where Dexter planted the ring. I decided they were too young for his debts and threats. See, I said when it ended. Dad put the ring in my box and then accused me of stealing it. But why? Penny asked, puzzled. Dad said stealing is wrong. Why did he do it himself? Sometimes adults do the wrong thing, I replied cautiously. Especially when they have problems. What kind of problems? Liam asked, seemingly understanding more than he let on. Adult problems, I replied evasively. The important thing is that I've never taken anything that didn't belong to me. And I'll never lie to you. I promise. We pulled up to Evelyn's house. It looked the same. Neat cottage, trimmed lawn. Hard to believe such secrets hid behind it. Do you have a key? Vernon asked. No, I shook my head. But the kids should. I have one. Liam confirmed, pulling a key on a lanyard from his backpack. Mom gives it to me. We entered. Everything looked normal, clean, tidy. No trace of yesterday's drama. Okay, kids, I said firmly. We need to gather your things. Just the essentials, clothes, school supplies, favorite toys. Everything should fit in one suitcase each. They nodded, ran to their rooms. I followed, helping. Vernon went to Evelyn's bedroom to gather her things. It would be quicker. Half an hour later, we had 3 suitcases. I added a few family photos, documents from Evelyn's desk, and her laptop. All done, Vernon said, loading suitcases into the car. Now we have to get to the hospital by 4. We were about to leave when a familiar black pickup truck pulled into the driveway. My heart sank. Dexter. He was back early. It's Dad, Penny exclaimed. Vernon made a split-second decision. Kids, get in the car, quick, he commanded. Martha, you too. I'll talk to him. No, I said firmly. I have to be here. This is my family. Vernon wanted to argue, but seeing my face, he just nodded. All right, but you kids get in the car. Liam and Penny, frightened, obeyed. Vernon and I stepped onto the porch just as Dexter got out of his truck. He saw us, froze, then his face contorted with rage. What the hell are you doing here? He barked, heading toward us. I told you yesterday, get out of my house. This is my daughter's house, I replied calmly, trembling inside. And her children's. And I came to pick them up. Dexter laughed, an unpleasant, evil sound. Take them? Where? They're my family. Mine. He took another step, but Vernon stepped forward. Mr. Price, he said formally. I'm Vernon Carlson, a former police officer. We have evidence of your slander against Mrs. Adlington, as well as information about your debts to Radcliffe and several underground casinos. I suggest you step aside and let us leave peacefully. Dexter paled at Radcliffe's name. Who the hell are you and how do you know? That's not important, Vernon interrupted. What's important is that your wife and children are leaving temporarily until you sort out your problems. Evelyn. Dexter looked around. Where is she? What did you tell her? The truth, I replied. About how you planted the ring in my jewelry box. About how you threatened to take the children away if she left you. About your debts. Nonsense, he spat, but his voice trembled. You have no proof. I do, I said, taking my laptop out of my bag and opening it. The camera in the guest room. The recording of you breaking into my jewelry box and planting the ring. The recording of your conversation with the creditor. It's all there, Dexter. He stared at the screen, realization dawning, fear replacing anger. You don't understand, he said in a different tone. These people, they're not kidding. If I don't get the money back. That's your problem, Mr. Price, Vernon said. But blackmailing your mother-in-law and threatening your wife is not the answer. Now, we're leaving, and I advise you not to try to stop us. Dexter stood, shoulders slumped, looking at us, then at the car where the children sat. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him, a broken man who had lost everything because of his own weakness. Can I at least say goodbye to the kids? He asked quietly. I glanced at Vernon. He nodded slightly. No drama, I warned. And in our presence. Dexter nodded and slowly walked to the car. Liam rolled down the window, looking at his father wearily. Hi, champ, Dexter said, trying to smile. Hi, princess, he added, seeing Penny. Dad, we're going to Grandma's, Penny said. Are you coming too? Dexter shook his head, swallowing hard. No, sweetheart. Daddy has to take care of some things. But I'll come see you soon, okay? You promise? She asked hopefully. I promise, he said, looking at silent Liam. Take care of your sister, okay, champ? Liam nodded slowly, still saying nothing. It was clear how hard it was for him to realize his father had lied, betrayed his grandmother. We have to go, I said, approaching the car. Evelyn is waiting for us at the hospital. Dexter stepped back, letting me get in. Vernon got into the driver's seat, started the engine. Don't try to follow us or threaten us, he warned Dexter through the roll-down window. My friend in the police has a copy of all the evidence. One phone call, and you'll have problems worse than your debts. Dexter nodded silently, hands in his pockets. As we drove away, I saw him in the rearview mirror, standing alone on the driveway, a lonely figure against the house he might soon lose. The children were silent on the way to the hospital, lost in their thoughts. Penny pressed against me, head on my shoulder. Liam sat upright, staring blankly out the window. Everything will be okay, I said quietly, hugging my granddaughter. I promise. We arrived at exactly 4 p.m. Evelyn was waiting, shifting nervously. When she saw the car, she ran over, got into the back seat, hugging the children. My little ones, she whispered, kissing them. Are you okay? Yes, Mom, Liam replied. We packed our things and we saw Dad. Evelyn froze. Dad? Was he home? He came back just as we were leaving, I explained. But everything's fine. We showed him the recording, and he didn't interfere. Evelyn breathed a sigh of relief. Thank God. I was so scared. It's all over, Vernon said as he pulled out of the hospital parking lot. Now let's go home to Martha's. We'll discuss what to do next there. The drive to my house took about 40 minutes. Evelyn held the children tightly, as if afraid they'd disappear. They chattered about school, their toys, plans for the evening. Their usual children's talk, now sounding especially precious. My old house on Oak Street greeted us with the setting sun gilding the windows. How strange. Just yesterday, I'd returned here alone, crushed. Today, I brought my family, my daughter and grandchildren, here to start a new life. Welcome, I said, opening the door. Make yourselves comfortable. The children entered first, looking around curiously. They'd been here before, but never stayed long. Liam, your room will be upstairs, first door on the right, I said. It was your mother's room when she was little. And you, Penny, will sleep in the room next door. It's my sewing room now, but we'll fix it up quickly. And me? Evelyn asked, carrying a suitcase. The guest room is downstairs, I replied. There's a comfortable sofa bed. If you want, we can look for an apartment closer to your work. No, she shook her head. We'll stay here for now if you don't mind. The children need stability, and so do I. Vernon carried in the remaining suitcases and stopped at the door. I think I'll go, he said. You need time to be together, to settle in. Stay for dinner, I offered. It's the least I can do. He hesitated, but Evelyn backed me up. Please, Mr. Carlson. We couldn't have done it without you. All right, he agreed. But just dinner. The evening passed in a strange but cozy atmosphere. Evelyn and I prepared dinner while the children explored, finding old toys and books from Evelyn's childhood. Vernon sat in the living room, taking phone calls from time to time, contacting friends in the police to ensure Dexter wasn't taking action against us. Over dinner, simple but hearty roast, salad, apple pie, we talked about the future. Liam and Penny would continue at the same school, Evelyn driving them. Finding a good lawyer for the divorce and custody. How I could help with a down payment if Evelyn wanted her own place. Mom, I can't accept this money. Evelyn objected when the children had gone to play. You can and you will, I said firmly. This isn't a gift. It's an investment in your future, in my grandchildren's future. Vernon, listening, nodded. Your mother is right, Evelyn. Besides, I think you should go to court, not only for a divorce, but also for compensation. If Dexter really lost the family money, you're entitled to compensation. I'm afraid there's nothing to compensate, she said with a bitter smile. All our savings are long gone. The house is mortgaged and remortgaged. Even my salary, part of it went to pay off debts. Nevertheless, Vernon said, you need a good lawyer. I have a friend who specializes in cases like this. I can put you in touch with him. Thank you, Evelyn said sincerely. For everything. I don't know how we'll manage. She was interrupted by the doorbell. We all froze. Who could it be? I'll get it, Vernon said, getting up. You stay here. He went into the hallway. Evelyn and I listened intently. Muffled conversation, then footsteps returning. It's Officer Dixon, Vernon said, entering with a young policeman. He has news about Dexter. Officer Dixon, a blond man in his 30s, nodded. Mrs. Price, he said to Evelyn. I need to inform you that your husband, Dexter Price, was arrested an hour ago for assaulting a creditor named Howard Radcliffe. Mr. Radcliffe is in the hospital with a concussion and a broken jaw. Your husband is at the station, charged with aggravated assault. Evelyn turned pale, pressing her hand to her mouth. My God, she whispered. He's completely lost his mind. We also found an unregistered firearm in his pickup truck, Officer Dixon continued. So there will be more charges. Given the severity of the crime and his previous convictions for fighting, he will most likely receive a significant sentence. Previous convictions? I asked, looking at Evelyn. Did you know? She shook her head. No. He never. God, how could I have been so blind? Officer Dixon continued. Mr. Price asked us to tell you that he won't be seeking custody of the children and agrees to a divorce on your terms. He also asked us to apologize to you, Mrs. Adlington, he turned to me, for the false accusations. I nodded, not knowing what to say. It was a strange feeling, receiving an apology through a police officer from a man who had publicly humiliated me just yesterday. What happens next? Evelyn asked, her voice trembling. Court, Officer Dixon replied. You will be called as a witness. The children will probably be questioned too, but in a sensitive manner with a psychologist present. Mr. Price is facing 5 to 10 years, considering all the circumstances. After the officer left, we sat in silence. Evelyn cried quietly, mourning not only her broken marriage, but all the years spent in fear and deception. I have to tell the children, she finally said. They have a right to know. Not today, I said gently. Give them time to settle in here. Tomorrow, or the day after will be enough for difficult conversations. Vernon nodded. Your mother is right. Right now, the children need peace and security. Everything else can wait. Evelyn wiped her tears and nodded. You're right. First, we need to get settled. Start a new life. And we'll manage, I said, taking her hand. Together. Vernon left around 10 p.m., promising to stop by tomorrow to help with paperwork and a lawyer. Evelyn and I put the children to bed, reading them a story. Penny insisted on the ritual, and finally sat together in the living room. Mom, Evelyn said quietly, looking at me with pain and remorse. I'll never be able to make up for what I did. The way I betrayed you yesterday. You've already made up for it, I replied, sitting beside her. By finding the strength to leave, by protecting the children, by choosing the truth, even though it was scary. I should have done it sooner. She shook her head. Before he accused you, before he started threatening you, before he lost all our savings. Don't beat yourself up, I said, hugging her shoulders. What's done is done. What matters is that we're together now, and no matter what happens, it will always be that way. Evelyn clung to me like she did as a child, afraid of thunderstorms or scary dreams. Promise. I promise. I kissed her head. Now go to sleep. Tomorrow is the start of a new life. When everyone had gone to bed, I sat in the living room for a long time, looking at the family photos on the walls. George, young and smiling, with little Evelyn. Evelyn in her prom dress. Me with newborn Liam. Penny on her first bike. My family. No matter what, she was with me again. And even though there were many difficulties ahead, court, divorce, rebuilding my grandchildren's trust, we would get through it together. In the bedroom, getting ready for bed, I glanced one last time at the jewelry box on the dresser, the small wooden box that had unwittingly caused all these events. Inside was still the ring Dexter had slipped into it, a silent witness to his desperation and meanness. Tomorrow, I would give it to the police as evidence. But today, Today I was just grateful that the truth had prevailed, that my daughter and grandchildren were back with me, for the fact that even at 65, it is possible to start a new chapter in life. With these thoughts, I went to bed, feeling at peace for the first time in a long time. Penny was snoring quietly behind the wall. In the room opposite, Liam was probably reading under the covers with a flashlight, his favorite pastime. Downstairs, Evelyn was probably still crying, mourning the past, but already looking to the future with hope. My family, my fortress. Whatever happens next, we've already survived the worst, and we've become stronger for it. What would you have done in my place? Have you ever had to fight for your family like this? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to know.